capitalism in its current form, we're talking about the post-Second World War liberal rules-based international order, the system that was set up, with the IMF, IBRD, World Bank, the trading system. As it is, I think it has run its course. Unless there's some serious fundamental structural reform and revamp, it's going to lead to a lot more unhappiness within societies and across societies.
We have mucked with the system, with the planet's climate system so badly that when we realise how much damage we've done, and we start getting positive feedbacks from the climate system as well, and the breakdown of the ice accelerating the breakdown of Greenland is one of those effects, and then the Gulf Stream, polar vortex, all these things changing, we're going to potentially undermine the capacity of the biosphere to support human civilization, if not life in general.
I don't think it can survive in its current form because it's essentially, it's a kind of a linear process monster that uses tremendous amounts of energy badly to create enormous amounts of waste that we can't deal with. And we need to basically get to a much more closed loop circular form of capitalism operating at different scales with multiple levels of redundancy.
We can't take care of what's already been done. That's done, and it's going to last. And the destruction of the environment that has already taken place extends into the future no matter what we do. Stop fossil fuels tomorrow, still going to continue. We can't stop it. These processes are underway, but we can constrain them. We can control them, have a good chance of creating not only a livable world, but a much better one. We'd have a much better world if we were not driven by the needs of private profit and private consumption, and we were concerned with the common good.
Frankly, it's not that capitalism is a bad system, it's just that our political systems will change in an effort to change capitalism in some other way. We'll be lucky if we're left with capitalism. If we're unlucky, we'll be left with some form of socialism that, in my opinion, that will aid an increasingly smaller group of people at the expense of everyone else.
Of course, capitalism has survived probably for longer than other systems, but is now suffering from the same weaknesses that led to the collapse, for example, of the Soviet Union and of so-called communism. The internal inequality that has led to expansion in trade and the financialization of the global economy has caused so much alienation.
I hope capitalism has a very vibrant future, but I don't think it's necessarily in this direction. I think we have to think about development of education and young people. It has to be much more ethical and much fairer if it's going to survive. Having some people harvesting such a large share of the resources and returns, I don't think that's consistent.
I think moderated capitalism will continue to evolve. And for our purposes, we can call it moderated socialism just as much as we can call it moderated capitalism, because what we have now is something in between the extreme forms that we experimented with in the 20th century. And it's going to keep evolving along the margins, right? Because we're still fine-tuning to figure out the system, to figure out exactly how much we want the government to intervene and where should the government intervene.
No system has continued in its current form. So there is going to be evolution. The question is, where is that evolution leading? Do we get the levels of economics levels of inequality and anger and rage that the current paradigm of economics continues to justify, saying that nothing's wrong, we don't really need to change things too much? Does that bring us into levels of societal collapse and violence before we can come out of it and learn that we need to have a different accommodation between capitalism and society?
Capitalism, in my view, has actually ended with the 2007-2008 financial crisis. And why do I make that statement? You only have to look the current magnitude of the four major central bank balance sheets. Right? So you have at the moment, they represent $30 trillion, so which is about 30,000 billion of dollars of money, mostly has been printed by these central banks, have been injected into the economy to stabilize in the case of 2007, 2008, financial markets and avoid major systemic risk.
Can capitalism survive in its current form? It will change and modernize all the time. You said USSR didn't survive. Yes, but Russia is still there. You said feudal China didn't survive. Yes, but China is here. You said that Europe collapsed. Okay, but Europe is also just on our eyes. The same would happen with capitalism. Maybe it will be a little bit different name, and maybe not. It would be different, but nothing disappeared.